Hello and welcome to today's session on data analytics and visualization tools. I welcome you to today's session on data analytics and visualization tools. I Pranand Patil. I work as software engineer at ABC Trainings, and today I am going to make you familiar with different data analytics tools like Power BI, Tableau, Apache Superset, Google Looker, Excel, SQL, and Python. Okay, so let's begin. So, as you all know, that like cloud computing, machine learning, artificial intelligence, data analytics is also one of the latest emerging trend in IT industry. And let me tell you that data analytics is not only one of the latest emerging trend in IT industry, but in all sectors that is in civil domain, in mechanical domain, in electrical domain also. So, what is data analytics and visualization? Data analytics involves processing data to discover trends, patterns, and actionable insights. Data visualization makes this data easier to interpret through charts, graphs, and dashboards. Real world value in healthcare, it predicts patient readmissions. In retail, it helps manage inventory and forecast demand. In finance, it identifies fraud. Like as I told you previously, that data analytics is one of the latest emerging trend in not only in IT industry or not only in IT domain, but across all the domains. Okay. Or let me give you a simple example that is like as in IT sector, as in IT sector, computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. These all are latest emerging trends. In the same way, data analytics is also one of the latest emerging trend in IT sector, and not only in IT domain, but it is or let us say that data analytics is one of the latest emerging trend in IT domain. Okay. Now, using data analytics, what we do, that is we process data. We process data means what? That we perform processing on data. That is, for example, consider people who may be knowing about data science, people who may be knowing about data science using Python. Okay. So, you know that in data science using Python, there is a concept called data pre-processing. And in data pre-processing, what we do, that is we perform different operations on data sets, like what we do now. First of all, what is a data set? A data set means, what is a data set? That in data set, data is stored in form of rows and columns in tabular format, right? And how are data sets? Data sets are of .csv format. Okay. In data science using Python, many of you means people who may be aware about data science using Python, you all may be knowing about data pre-processing concept from that. In data pre-processing concept, what we do, that we perform different operations on data. Now, first of all, what is a data set? In a data set means what? We can say that large amount of data. And in data set, data is stored in tabular format, that is in form of rows and columns. And data sets are mostly in .csv format. Okay. Data sets are stored mostly in .csv format, that is comma separated values format. Okay. Now on that data set, what we do, that is we perform various operations like cleaning the data. Now cleaning the data means what we do, that we delete or remove the rows from that data set which contain empty cells. Okay. After that, what we do, that is we create new features. Now before we create new features means what? Or create new features, or before telling about features, you must know what are features. Feature means what? That a single column. Feature means a single column. Now, as I told you, that in data set, data is stored in tabular format, in rows of, in form of rows and columns. Now, a single column in terms of data analytics is known as feature. And using data analytics, what we can do, that on the basis of existing features, we can create a new feature also. That is, for example, consider you have a data set which contains consider you have a data set which contains length of various rectangles, which contains two columns. First is length, in which length of various rectangles are stored, and second is breadth, in which breadth of various rectangles are stored. And on the basis of these two columns, you can create a third column. That is, on the basis of these two features, you can create a third new feature, that is area of rectangle, using the formula area of rectangle is equal to length into breadth. In the same way, consider you have a data set in which you have two columns, height and weight. In height column, height of different persons are stored, and in weight column, weight of different people are stored, and in height column, height of different people are stored. And what you can do, that is, on basis of these two columns, or on the basis of these two features, you can create a third new feature named body mass index. And how we calculate body mass index? We calculate body mass index using the formula height divided by weight, right? Okay. So after that, again, more what you can do, that is using data analytics, or again, what operations you can perform on that data set, that is the columns containing empty rows, or the columns, or using data on data set. Again, what more operations you can perform, that is, in that data set, those rows containing empty cells. As I told you earlier, that from that data set, those rows containing empty rows, you can eliminate them or delete them. But in a data set, rows containing empty cells, in that cells, you can also fill a specific value. In that cells, you can also fill a specific value. Again, using that data set, you can visualize the data, which makes it easier to identify the trends and patterns in that data. Or as you can, or many of you may be knowing about association rule mining. Okay, many of you may be knowing about association rule mining term used in unsupervised learning in machine learning. Okay, now association rule mining. Why we use association rule mining? So association rule mining refers to a machine learning problem where the goal is to discover patterns, relationships, or associations among a set of items in large data sets. So in data analytics, or using data analytics, you can do this too. Okay. After that, you can also visualize the data, etc. Now, in the last session, we stopped at Excel data analytic tool. Now, Excel is a basic data analytic tool used across all domains, may it be IT domain, civil domain, or mechanical domain, or electrical domain. So Excel is the basic software. Like, for example, let me explain you that, for example, if any IT candidate, he wishes to pursue a career in software development, he first needs to clear the base of C and C++ programming language. In the same way, for data analytics, for a IT student who wishes to pursue a career in data analytics, his base of Excel should be clear. That is, Excel is the foundation of data analysis, and it is widely used across all industries. Now, using Excel, what you can do, that is, you can store data in form of rows and columns. You can visualize the data. You can edit the style of table. Okay, you can store data in form of rows and columns, that is in tabular format. You can modify the rows and columns. Again, using Excel, in Excel, first of all, in Excel, data is stored in sheets. Okay, in sheets or worksheets. Now, using Excel, what all you can do, that is, you can create copy of your worksheets. Okay, you can create copy of your worksheets, or you can move your worksheets to right or left. Or using Excel, you can also secure your worksheet. That is, you can set a password for your worksheet so that no other person accesses that data. That is, you can protect your worksheet by setting a password for that worksheet, so that except the owner of that worksheet, no other third party can access that worksheet. Again, what all you can do, that in Excel there are date and time functions. There are date and time functions like dateDif function, which calculates difference between two dates, which calculates difference between. In Excel, there are also date and time functions like dateDif function, which calculates difference between two dates in months or years or days. After that, weekday function. There is one more function like weekday function which displays the day of the week, or we can say weekday function. Weekday function, what it does, that it displays the day of the week. We pass two arguments to weekday function. One is serial underscore number and another is return underscore type, and return underscore type specifies how the days of the week are numbered, and serial underscore number specifies the date value. Okay, weekday function. What weekday function does, that is we pass two arguments to weekday function. One is serial underscore number and another is return underscore type, where serial underscore number specifies complete date value, and return underscore type return underscore type return underscore type specifies how days of the week are numbered. So, for example, if you have passed a complete date value, for example, if you have passed a specific date value to weekday function and did not pass return underscore type argument to weekday function, in that case, weekday function by default considers Sunday as first day of the week and Saturday as last day of the week, and according to that, the specific date value which you have passed to weekday function, according to that, it displays the displays the day of the week. Okay, again using Excel, what you can do, that is you can get and transform the data. That is, may your data be stored in .SQL format, or may your data be stored in .PDF format, or may your data be stored in .SQL format. What you can do, that using Excel, you can retrieve the data. You can retrieve the data stored in any format, may it be in .PDF format, .SQL format, or .doc format, or .txt format. You can get that data, and transform it in Excel, and transform it in Excel according to your own convenience. Again, you can use conditional logic functions in Excel. You can use date and time functions in Excel. You can use string functions in Excel. Okay, using Excel, you can also do data visualization using data visualizations like chart, pie chart, bar graph, etc. Again, using Excel, you can also protect your worksheets. That is, except owner of that worksheet, no other person can modify data stored in that worksheet, and you can protect your worksheet by setting a password to that worksheet. Again, you can move, or also you can create copies of your worksheet. Okay, you can do formatting also in Excel. In Excel, you can modify rows and columns. Okay. Now, the next data analytic tool is SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. In SQL, it is used for database. That is, many of you may be knowing about full stack development. In full stack development, what we do, that is we design front end, back end, and database separately, and after that we integrate all these three components together to create a single application or a single software. So, why we use SQL? We use SQL for database, that is to store data. Now, SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and in SQL we store data in databases, and in database we store data in form of tables, and in tables we store data in form of rows and columns. Okay. Now, there are different languages for database like SQL. There is MySQL, PostgreSQL, SQL Server, and also MongoDB. Okay, MongoDB. So, now related to SQL, first of all, you must be knowing all the basic queries of SQL, like create database, create table, inserting data into table, or displaying data into table. Now, first of all, when it comes to learning SQL, you must be familiar with all the basic queries, starting from create database, database underscore name, to drop database, database underscore name. Now, which all basic queries you should be familiar with? First is create database, creating a new database. Second is creating a new table in that database. And before creating a new table in that database, you must also be knowing how to switch the database. That is, for example, consider if you have created a database named sample, and next what you want to do, that is you want to create a new table in that sample database. So after creating a new database named sample, if you directly create a new table named studinfo, then it's not going to get created in that sample database. So for you, the new table named studinfo to get created in sample database, first you need to switch the database to sample, and then you can create your studinfo table in that sample database. But without switching the database, if you create a new table, it's not going to get created in sample database, but by default it's going to get created in some other database. Okay. So first you need so after creating database, first you need to switch the database, and then in that database you can create new table. After creating new table, you need to insert data in that database. So after creating new table in that database, you need to insert data in that table. To insert, now there are two ways to insert data in a table in SQL. First is you can insert single row at a time. Second is you can insert multiple rows at a time. Now to insert single row at a time, now syntax to insert a single row at a time in a table is different, and syntax to insert multiple rows at a time in a table is different. After that you can also display the data. You can also display the data means what? That you can, there are many variations in displaying the data. That is first is you can display the entire data from a table. After that you can display data only display data from a particular column in a table. After that you can display data from multiple columns in a table. After that you can display data from a single row in a table, and also you can display data from multiple rows in a table. Now for displaying data from a single row in a table, or for displaying a specific row from a table, or to display multiple rows from a table, you need to use where clause with that. You need to use where clause with select query. Okay, and also using select query you can display entire data from a table. You can display data only from a particular column from a table, and also you can display data from multiple columns in a table. After that you should be knowing about update statement. Now update statement we use to modify data in a table, and after that comes alter table statement. Using alter table statement, what you can do, that is you can drop an existing column from a, using alter table statement what you can do, that is you can drop an existing column from a table, or add a new column in an existing table, or you can modify any columns data type, or you can modify a specific columns data type in an existing table, or also you can rename the table name, or also you can rename the table name. Okay, and using update statement, what you do, that you update the data stored in a table. Using update statement, you update the data stored in a table, but using alter table statement, you modify the structure of a table. Now let me explain you its difference. That is, update statement affects the data of the table, whereas alter table statement affects the structure of the table. But before knowing difference between update statement and alter table statement, you must be knowing what is structure of the table. Now in SQL, when you create a new table in a specific database, to display structure of that table, how to display structure of that table? You can display the structure of that table using describe table underscore name query. Okay, and after that what you can do now, what what does update statement do? That update, it affects the data of the table, and alter table statement affects the structure of the table. That is, using update statement what you can do, that is you can modify a single value in a specific row, or also you can modify multiple values in a specific row, or also you can modify the entire row. But using alter table statement, what you can do, that is you can drop an existing column from a table, or add a new existing column, or add a new column in a table, or modify a specific columns data type from an existing table, or you can also rename the table name, right? Or also you can rename the table name. So all these actions affect the structure of the table, whereas update statement only affects the data only affects the data stored in the table, whereas alter table statement affects the structure of the table. Structure of the table means what? That using alter table statement, what you can do, that is drop an existing column from a table, or what you can do, that is uh, insert a new column in an existing table, or rename the table name, or modify a specific columns data type, etc. Modify a specific columns data type, and all these actions, what they do, that they modify the structure of the table. After that, you must also be familiar with delete statement. Using delete statement, what you do, that using delete statement, you you can delete entire data from a table at a time, or you can delete a specific row also. Okay. And after that, finally there are two queries, sorry, finally there is a drop statement. Using drop statement, what you can do, you can drop a database, as well as you can also drop a table. Okay, first of all you need to drop a table, and after that you can drop the database. After that, you must be also knowing about you must be familiar with constraints. That is, in SQL, why we use constraints, that is to maintain data integrity. There are different constraints in SQL, like primary key, foreign key, unique, default, check, etc. Let me give you a simple example. For example, consider you have created a studinfo table. Okay. uh, in which you have three columns: SID, SNAME, and SMarks. Okay. Now, for example, consider that while inserting data into studinfo table, you have assigned the same SID to ABC student, as well as PQR student, Now in this case, data integrity is not maintained. Why? Because since you all know that in schools or colleges, each student is assigned a unique roll number or a unique ID. Okay. So in that, so if in studinfo table you assign two students same ID or same roll number, in that case, which specific student, if you say one SID, okay, in that case, which specific student you are addressing, that is, if you are addressing ABC student or whether you are addressing PQR student, that is unclear. So for example, consider that while creating studinfo table, if I have if I have specified primary key constraint for SID column, or assigned primary key constraint to SID column, this what it means, that while inserting data into studinfo table, you need to take care that in SID column you insert only unique values. That is, while inserting data into studinfo table, you need to insert only unique values in SID column. In SID column, for no row or for any row, you cannot insert duplicate values. And one more use of primary key constraint is what, that if you, that as I told you in a case of current example, for example, consider while creating studinfo table, I have assigned primary key constraint to SID column, which means that while inserting data into studinfo table, I need to insert only unique values in SID column. And since I'm going to insert only unique values in SID column, so in that case, using SID column, I can also uniquely identify each row in that table. Okay. And after that, let me give you a simple example of default constraint also. Why we use default constraint? To set default value for a column in a table. That is, for example, consider you have created an employee table, and in that you have three columns: EID, ENAME, and eSalary. And what you want to do, that while inserting data into that table, for example, that for eSalary column, instead of inserting a specific value, user specified default keyword, then in that case, after inserting data into that table, when you display data from that table where user inserted default keyword, there a default value should get displayed. That is, for example, consider you have created an employee table, and while creating employee table, or you have created an employee table in which there are three columns: EID, ENAME, and eSalary. And while inserting data into employee table, for third row, what user has done, that he has, instead of inserting a specific value for eSalary column, he has specified default keyword, and due to that, and he has specified a default keyword. So while creating the employee table, he has specified in data type for eSalary column, and after that he has specified default keyword, and after that he has specified 10,000. Okay, and after that, while inserting data into table, for example, consider that for third row, what user has done that in e-salary column, that for e-salary column, he didn't specify a specific e-salary, but he specified e-salary column. And after inserting data into that employee table, when user is going to display data from that employee table or entire data from that employee table, in that case, in the third row of employee table, under e-salary column, instead of default keyword getting displayed, 10,000 e-salary is going to get displayed. After that, we also have aggregate functions in SQL like count function, sum function, average function, first function, last function, etc. Now, count function is used to display number of rows in a table. After that, sum function is used to display sum of all values in a numeric column. In a numeric column, like for example, SID, in a numeric sum of all values stored in a numeric column. Now, numeric column means, for example, columns like SID, S marks, or E salary, etc. Then average column. Average column is used to display average of all values stored in a numeric column. Now, first and last, first and first and last. Now, first and last, these both aggregate functions, we cannot implement them directly in SQL. We need to implement first and last functions in SQL using order by clause indirectly. But before that, you must be familiar with what is order by clause. So, we use order by clause to sort in SQL. We use order by clause to sort data stored in a table either in ascending order or descending order. Now, order by clause in SQL by default sorts data stored in a table in ascending order. But order by clause, what it does, that it sorts in SQL, it sorts data stored in a table in ascending or descending order based on another column. That is, for example, you have employee table, and in employee table, in EID column, you have stored 4 values, 1, 2, 3, 4. And using order by clause, you want to sort data stored in employee table in ascending order. Now, since order by clause by default sorts data stored in a table in ascending order, so you need not mention any specific order. What you need to do is select star from, you need to run a query named select star from employee, where select star from employee order by SID. And in that case, what this query is going to do, that it is going to order by EID. And what this query is going to do, it is going to sort data stored in employee table in ascending order according to EID column. But if you execute this query, that is select star from employee order by SID, order by DESC SID, semicolon. In that case, what this query is going to do, that it is going to sort data stored in employee table in descending order. After that, we have joins. Why we use joins? We use joins to combine data from 2 or more tables. Okay. Then after that, we also have clauses. We have clauses to filter out data. We use clauses to filter out data. Also, there is a one more important point named copy database. Using copy database, what we can do? Using copy database, what we can do? That using copy database, you can do 3 things. But before using copy database, or for executing copy query, you need to have MySQL dump pre-installed on your system. And using copy database, what all you can do? That using copy database, you can copy entire database as it is into a new database, or using copy database, you can copy specific tables from a database into a new database, or using copy query, you can also manually copy structure and data of a source table into a destination table. But before executing copy query, you need to have MySQL dump installed on your system. Now, the next data analytic tool is Python, which is a versatile programming language with strong data libraries like pandas, NumPy, Seaborn, Plotly, etc. It is useful for automating repetitive tasks, statistical analysis, and machine learning. It is often used for building data products, predictive models, and scripts for large-scale processing. Now, as you all know, that like cloud computing, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, Python is also a latest emerging trend. Why it is a latest emerging trend? So one of the main reason behind that is that the uh, advanced trends like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or data science using Python, these all technologies or these all latest emerging trends are taught using Python. So before learning these latest industry trends like artificial intelligence, machine learning, or AI, or data science using Python, what you need to know that your base of Python must be clear. Your base of Python must be clear means first of all you must be completely familiar with Python programming language. And one of the main reason that why all these latest emerging trends are taught using Python is that consider you are a non-IT candidate and you plan to switch your to IT sector, okay, and you want to learn these latest emerging trends, or you want to become a ML engineer or a AI engineer or a data analyst, okay. So it is easy for you to learn Python programming language since it is easy to adapt. And as I told you in as I tell you or inform you in my every session, that is knowing only the main concepts related to any programming language is not enough, but along with that, you should also be familiar with the minute details of that programming language. Minute details means, let me give you a simple example of that. That is, for example, consider C programming language and Python programming language. Now, one of the major difference between both these is that Python consumes less memory compared to C programming language. And how it happens that, for example, consider in a C programming, you have declared and initialized two different variables A and B with the same value 10. In that case, what happens that uh, a separate unique memory address is assigned for 10 values stored in a variable, whereas one more separate unique address is assigned for 10 values stored in b variable. But if you consider this same scenario in Python, that is a is equal to 10 and b is equal to 10, in that case what is going to happen that uh, a unique memory address is going to get a unique memory address is going to get assigned for 10 values stored in a variable. But in case of Python, what is going to happen that the 10 value stored in b variable is going to point to the unique memory address assigned to 10 values stored in a variable. And from this what we can conclude that uh, identical values in Python share common memory address. And from that what we can conclude that Python consumes less memory compared to other programming languages, right? Okay, and one more important main feature is that Python is also syntax free, which makes it easy to adapt. That is, minimum syntax is used in Python. After that, we in Python we have strong data libraries like pandas. Now pandas library is used for creating data sets or data frames. NumPy library is used for mathematical calculations and statistical calculations. Seaborn and Matplotlib, these libraries are majorly used for data visualization. Okay, and there is one more library or a you can say package named multiple dispatch. So many of you may be knowing that using in Python we cannot implement function overloading concept. So to implement function overloading concept in Python, we need to use multiple dispatch package. And one more thing that many of you may be not familiar with this, that Python is not only used as a programming language, but it is also used as a scripting language. Now what is a scripting language? Language that is used for web development. So as we use Python for software development, in the same way we can also use Python for web development. And the third use of Python is it is used for test automation. It is used for test automation means what? That as Python, as you all may be knowing about Selenium, people who out of all of you, people who may be knowing about Selenium. Selenium is used for test automation. Using Selenium, what we do, we execute test scripts. That is, for example, consider you have designed a browser like Google Chrome. Okay, you have designed a browser like Google Chrome. Now, when you open home page of Google Chrome, there are various web elements in that. There are various web elements in that, like search box, okay, like search box or labels, etc. And using Selenium, what you do that you test that these web elements of that web application work properly or not, like search box, labels, drop down, etc. And using Selenium, what you do that you test whether all the web elements in that web application function properly or not. And to test whether all the web elements from that web application work properly or not, what you do, you need to execute test scripts. And for that, you need to have knowledge of test automation. And in testing also there are two separate domains. One is manual testing and another is test automation. Using manual testing, what you do, that is you validate the uh, using manual testing, what you do, that you all may be knowing about processors or motherboards. So let me tell you one simple application of manual testing. You all may be knowing about laptops and laptop. In laptop, you may be knowing about motherboard or processor. So using manual testing, you validate the motherboard or the processor. That is what you do, that manually you test all the functionalities of that processor or that motherboard. And if any function is not working properly, you raise a bug or you raise a error, right? Okay, and the debug team solves that error. But using test automation, what you do, that you automate the test scripts. Automate the test scripts means a web application which you have created. You test whether all the web elements in that uh, web application are properly functioning or not. And if any web element from that web application is not functioning properly, that software or that web application is not ready for release. Okay, so Python is also used for test automation. Like you may be knowing about Selenium with Java. In the same way, you can also use Selenium with Python also. So tools working together, that is real world data workflows, use a combination of tools: SQL for querying, Python for cleaning and modeling, Tableau and Power BI for visualization, Excel for summaries, Superset or Looker for embedding or engineering specific dashboards. Learning path. So let me tell you the learning path of data analytics, which is begin with Excel and SQL to understand data structure and querying, move to Power BI or Tableau for dashboard and reporting skills, learn Python for automation, deeper analysis and predictive modeling, explore Looker and Superset for advanced modeling and cloud native or real-time analytics. Okay, and also you can do separate different certifications like Power BI, Tableau desktop, Looker, Python and SQL, etc. Okay, so after learning this all data analytics, you have career opportunities like data analyst, BI developer, Python developer, data scientist, analytics engineer, etc. And now real world applications of data analytic tools are in retail. It is in retail sector. Power BI is used for storing sales tracking, inventory alerts. In healthcare sector, data analytics or Python plus SQL is used to build risk prediction models. In fintech sector, uh, data analytics is used for Looker dashboards showing user investments and real-time profit or loss. In startups, data analytic tools like Apache Superset are used by developers to monitor usage meters. Now, final thoughts are that no single tool is sufficient. You need to combine strengths like SQL plus Python plus visualization. You need to build real-world dashboards from open data or your company data. Okay, you need to share your work publicly on GitHub or LinkedIn to build credibility. And you should also aim to be a storyteller with data, not just a number cruncher. Okay, so we at ABC Trainings welcome you to begin your journey of data analytics and visualization with us. Now, if you want to learn data analytics, there are four main important concepts, or four main important technologies, which are Excel, Python, SQL, and Power BI. After learning all these technologies, you can land a job role like data analyst. Okay, and in we at ABC Trainings not only make you familiar with the syllabus or that course, or but we also give you insights into real world projects or real world applications of each and every technology, right? So that's all for today. Thank you for listening to me patiently. Let's meet in the next session.